Hey guys, Ardenstone here again. Um, in this video, I wanted to talk about Diablo 4 and why I decided not to continue to play the game. And I wanted to go over some. I'm going to be going over some of the other opinions of certain people, certain streamers and things. Um, Most of them are all pretty uh, close in their, I guess, their opinion of the game. They all kind of seem to have very similar agreements and certain things, but my perspective, I look at the game from a little bit differently than just what a streamer does. From my perspective, and I made a video about the game being bad originally, after playing it for a couple of weeks or a week or so, and getting almost to level 100, I think, by the time I made the video. And so, from my perspective, I come from a background in game development. I went to school for that, and I build applications and I design video game esque um, projects and experiences. And so a lot of the things that I look for in a video game are things that like I would want to see, well, the things that I would think would be very fun to develop or be able to make, things that I would actually want to see in games. And I'm not sure that really made sense, but let me kind of like rephrase it. So what I notice is that when I play video games, because I come from that background, I can identify things that I don't like, and I know why I don't like them. And so it's like I don't have to play the game very long to find those things because they stick out to me because I think about how things were developed. And so, for example, maybe like let me lower this down just a little bit. I might be talking a little bit too loud, but maybe like I'm gonna say um, just adjust a little bit more. Okay, so maybe like for example in Diablo, immediately after starting the game and getting my first few legendaries and seeing the aspect system, I started to like immediately. I was thinking this isn't a very good design. This is not a very good design because of the inventory issue. Like I didn't have to play for very long to see that because from my developer standpoint, that system that's what I think of. Like I'm like, okay, this is going to cause a problem with the inventory because these are items and they're gonna have they're gonna take up space. The gems were the same way. They already corrected the gem issue pretty quickly actually. But the gem thing was a very big thing. Like immediately, I noticed that right away, and I thought to myself like, why are we doing this again? Diablo 3 had gems just like that, and they took up a lot of space. And so these are things that as you build games and you develop things, you look for ways that you can improve that. You don't want cumbersome systems uh, that the users have to interface with. So for me, it's like that's what I just do that naturally when I play a video game. And so anytime I see something like that, it just bothers me, and then I start thinking of like, like why didn't they do it a different way? Why not, throw those, make them unlockable and put them into the Codex of Power, and make them upgradable, systems like that. Blizzard may have their reasons for doing certain things, but let's just face it, like Blizzard's decisions have been pretty bad, and that's really clear because I mean, if you just look at the internet's reactions and kind of like stance on the game, I mean, if you look at the game, I'm not gonna. Let's see. Let's go to Steamcharts and let's take a look at the game. I mean, you could do this. I'm not gonna actually share this on the screen right now, but you can look at this. Steamcharts. I mean, I could, I guess, but I don't have the. I'd have to like make a browser page for this real quick, um, but you could literally go to steamcharts.com and you can type in Diablo 4 or just Diablo, and you'll see Diablo 4. And it currently has on Steam players, it's currently 2,478, and that's like it may not be completely accurate to the minute, but 2,478. I mean, that's really poor. We're talking like I don't even want to know what's the exact percentage of Last Epoch because Last Epoch has well, let's find out. Let's find out. Let's find out. Last Epoch. Maybe I will just put this on here because Last Epoch has a current player count of 60,000, and in just the last few days, it was like 190,000 or something. And before that, it was even higher. Now, of course, Diablo probably had all that when it was new too, but the difference is that Last Epoch is not a triple A. It's not Blizzard. The developers that made Last Epoch are not Blizzard, right? Blizzard has way more marketing power, and Last Epoch, no, they don't. So, I mean, it looks bad on Blizzard to have only 2,700 people on Steam playing your game on a day-to-day basis, especially after just launching the Gauntlet, which is like the new feature for the leaderboards. Um, so, kind of coming back, I played Diablo 3 a lot. I played it for like it's almost its whole lifetime. Um, I loved that game even though a lot of people hated it. I didn't play Diablo 2 originally, so I didn't have anything to compare Diablo 3 to. But I was expecting Diablo 4 to be a game that was going to last, 10 years or at least or whatever. And some people say, "Oh yeah, the game's going to get better, and then, yeah, it'll be good in 10 years." Well, that's the problem. It's like I'm not here to play the game in 10 years. I'm here to play the game right now. But kind of going back to what I was talking about in terms of identifying things and being able to spot things that I know are going to be problems and that are going to actually like I feel like for me because I have that perspective of being a developer, um, I kind of feel like I'm almost able to predict things that other people are not going to like. There are a lot of people that do like Diablo, and there are a lot of people that can continue to play like Rax and Woody who can they can put hours into the game and they can level characters, and really play the game even when the game is boring or when it's disappointing. And yeah, that's totally fine. But eventually, I think it will catch up to them, and it did. It's like as soon as Last Epoch came out, they've kind of all moved over to Last Epoch. They've realized that Diablo is missing a lot of things. One of the things that I picked up on also really immediately was, and this was something that was before the game even came out, was the fact that the skill trees were super super simplified. Um, the the game just I looked at that from like in the we so I knew somebody who had access to the early alpha, and I looked at that and saw that I'm like, is this it for real? Like this can't be it. This can't be it. Like there's no way. Um, it makes no sense. And I mean, I even had a friend, my friend who played the early access alpha, uh, was was he loves Diablo, and he literally got bored of the early access, the end game early access alpha, because it didn't feel like there was enough to do. And I mean, that's like, I mean, you have a brand new game to play, a brand new Diablo game. What more could you ask for? But there was literally not enough to do in the game, and it felt so boring that he actually stopped playing the early access alpha because it was boring. So, I mean, what does that tell you? I probably would have done the same thing, I guess, because I mean, like I said, I played through the story, got through level 50, got to a point where I was at around level 70 to 80, started getting really bored. Item drops were just really, really boring. Nothing fun, nothing exciting, nothing that was, game changing. And the system, the itemization was so bland that you don't really have anything to look forward to. And I mean, I made it to 100 before the first season, but it was like I had to drag myself there. I didn't even enjoy the last 15 levels. I just wanted to do it just for the sake of saying that I did it. It was a terrible thing. Um, so anyway, what I wanted to get back to is I think I really wanted to talk about from me having this perspective, me being able to pick up on some of these things maybe earlier than a lot of people. at least a lot of people who have no, maybe they're not necessarily blinded by the fact that they don't, that they like the game, but maybe they just don't see some of the problems that will come from some of the issues that I identify. They don't see the problems that might come from those early enough to really like decide that they need to request changes. One of the things though that I did want to talk about was Quinn mentioned something in before the game came out, like during the beta phase, or before that even actually. I think it was during the early access phase, and like right after that, and it was that um, there were too many items that were too specific, and that there needed to be more generalizations made on the itemization, because things were getting too specific. And it was like you could have he mentioned, you could have more builds if you had less specific things, and that's totally true. And that was something that, like, I think should have made it into the game. That's something that they should have looked into that more. Unfortunately, the way that development works is you don't have that much time to make major changes, especially when you get feedback in an alpha. I mean, the game is mostly built. So for them to do that, they have to like redesign everything and rebuild stuff and retest, and it's not that easy. And um, but what I really wanted to get to here in this video is that I think the real problem with Diablo in general is the fact that the game developers don't know. Number one, they really are trying to target too much of a demographic. They have people who really love Diablo, they have all of the diehard fans, and then they have the idea that they wanted to try to market to a lot of new players that don't play Diablo. And so either they are out of touch with their diehard fans, and they designed the game that way because they were out of touch, or they wanted to just simplify the game because marketing, or because the producers and the directors told them to. And that could potentially be the problem, but the game in general got simplified down and boiled down into some kind of real basic version of an ARPG that has no substance. It doesn't have anything. It has a lot of weird problems. And then they try to throw you stuff like, the seasons, and the seasons are bland and boring, because they're just kind of reskinning similar concepts. I mean, we have the heart, the malignant hearts, which are effectively just another way to say augmented, legendary gems, and then vampiric powers, which is just also sort of it's another concept that strings from that. It's just another concept that allows you to add some additional power on top of your build. You're not changing the build's function, like the main core functionality of the abilities. You're just kind of adding things on top of it. Um, or you're getting some new abilities, maybe some new stuff that might, but it's not really changing much of the core functionality of the abilities, of the skills. And so you've got that kind of happening, and then the season three just, like, they took it even another step further and went into this route of having the gameplay even slowed down, which was one of the things that Rax was saying. No, you need to do the opposite of that. Nobody wants to slow down. Diablo is a game where you go fast and you blast and stuff, and that's 100% true. Nobody wants to slow down. So that kind of makes me wonder if they actually are out of touch. They really don't know what their people want, or if they actually are just being told, "Hey, this is what we need to do because we need to keep you know being able to pull in as many players as possible." Well, either way, it doesn't really matter what they were doing, because either way they did not pull in the players they wanted, because nobody's playing the game. I mean, barely anybody is. And so I mean, personally, my opinion on it is that things like systems that players are asking for, those things need to be high priority. And they obviously have some developers or designers that are making bad decisions when it comes to seasons. And maybe those, I don't know if those people, it feels like those people came from another game and they're being told to develop content for this game. They never played an ARPG. Maybe they never even played Diablo 3. They probably didn't play Diablo 2, and they're just trying to come up with ideas, but they're from a different background, different video game, and it's not meshing. Um, that could be it, but there's definitely a disconnect between the developers and what the actual players really want, and I think that disconnect is the major issue with Diablo 4. I mean, that's like they obviously are. One of the things, I guess, what I was going to say just a second ago. Um, One of the actual things that I think is evident that makes the disconnect more evident is the fact that um, they they are balancing the game. They are continuously balancing the game in ways that make it less fun on purpose. Um, when you have builds that are overpowered, super overpowered, those things should be reined in. Totally cool. That doesn't bother me at all. It's when you have the developers holding on to values so tightly, like mana regen and generation, and you've kind of they've locked themselves into a generator spender mentality. So that's the I guess it's the duality of the game. They use generators and then you use spenders, and there are cooldowns, but the core of the game is generator, generator, spender, right? And so they've decided to stick with that, and they hold on to those values so tightly that you can't really have fun with the game in the early levels. Some of the classes, like Druid, is really boring to level because of that, because you hardly ever have any spirit to actually do your core ability. Well, what is the fun part of the game? The fun part of the game is blasting, right? In the words of Rex, blasting. That's fun. Using your core ability. That's going to be fun. That's what people want to do. When you have to spend, you know, 90% of your time generating, it's extremely boring. And leveling in that game over and over again, when you have that happening, it becomes tedious and annoying and discouraging. People like myself, I just recognize those things and I can't tolerate that. I like because I've played other games enough to know like this isn't fun. I don't I can't push myself to continue to play the game and spend more time on it like some of these streamers can. I'm also not getting paid to do that, so it's like I don't have any reason to continue. So I quit the game earlier, and there's probably a handful of other people that that just don't really enjoy the way that it is, and maybe they don't like certain ways the ways that certain classes are playing, and so maybe they leave early too. But personally, that for me, that's what it is. Like I see those things immediately, and it just discourages me from playing because I know that I don't like the gameplay. The core 30-second gameplay loop isn't that fun. And then I look at further ahead and I realize that there's no content. There's no actual like anything to do when you get to level 100. Really, nightmare dungeons are stupid. They're a joke. They're boring and they're not really rewarding. The system for runes or the passive tree is just the leveling experience for the glyphs is extremely tedious, not fun at all. I like there's so many things that Path of Exile have done, or I mean that sorry, that the last Epoch game has done better. Just and it's not even a triple A. It's not even a triple A game built by a company like Blizzard. So it's the developers. The problem is the developers. The disconnect between what they actually are building and what people that play ARPGs actually expect. And that's completely evident now that Last Epoch is out. I think it was kind of like in maybe people didn't really quite see it as much because when you compare Diablo 4 to Path of Exile, a lot of people go, well, Path of Exile is just too far in the other direction, and it's complicated for a lot of people to play, and that's true. But when you have Last Epoch sitting right in the middle, and it's fun, and it offers more complexity um, without deterring people, it's like it's definitely more evident. So I mean, it's like they need to. I don't know. They need to either restructure their development team. It's almost like they need to tell their development team to actually play the older games. To go out and play Last Epoch. The designers, not necessarily the programmers. It's not the programmers and stuff like that are probably the issue. It's the designers. It's the game designers. They're the ones that need to go out and try these other games and actually find out why they're fun. You know, and I'm gonna say this. I've heard that there's a poll going out from Blizzard that is asking about Diablo 4 and it's supposed to be secretive and all that. So the thing is if you have a game that's nearly brand new and it's doing horribly bad to the point where you have to send out a secret poll to to ask the players why they're not playing or what would bring them back to the game. I mean, clearly your designers just don't know what they're doing. It's unfortunate, but they don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, that says it all. And for me personally, I can't go back and play Diablo. I can't go back and even try the Gauntlet because I know it's not going to be something that I will enjoy because the rest of the game is still messed up. I'm not going to come back to the game and play Diablo 4, especially at least not until they've it fixed um, the uh, what's the name of the I just had it earlier the oh gosh, I can't even remember the name. um, the aspects, sorry. The aspects, until they fix the aspects and get them out of the stash, get them out of your inventory. That's like the one major thing that would probably bring me back to playing the game. That would be the number one thing. I cannot handle that. I'm over it. And I think that I don't know. Maybe other people would disagree, but I know some people agree. That's a terrible thing. That like they should have just not even had them as items. But for me, the rest of the game, it's still pretty boring. Like I wouldn't want to come back and play it. So from a developer's standpoint, as a person who does, has spent a lot of time doing, learning video game design and working on projects. I wasn't even technically a game designer, but I've played enough games and I've played enough ARPGs to know good game development, to know what's fun. And I'm sorry, but like, you don't need to be a AAA game designer to know what a fun game is. So don't ever let somebody try to tell you that you don't know what a fun game is just because you've played video games and you haven't built them. Um, you know what a fun game is if you've played enough of a game and you've enjoyed the game. And if you can identify a few things that are problematic with a game, then you know enough about a game to be able to know what's fun. So that's just my take on Diablo 4 and the reason why personally from like I said from my standpoint as a person who develops games would not want to continue to play that game until they can make some massive changes. Um, I really want the game to be amazing, and this video is not about trying to become popular. It's not about trying to become somebody, even to become some kind of influencer. It's not about that. I don't stream much. I stream like a little bit. I just want the game to be good. And at the current moment, we've seen what the developers or the designers there are doing, and it does not seem like they're capable of making the game what it needs to be. Um, so yeah, I guess that's where I'll leave it. If you guys have any comments or any thoughts on any of this stuff, I'd love to hear it. Um, I think it's. I want to get. I really just want to stir the pot a little bit, and I want to get the community of Diablo 4 to talk and come up with ideas, more ideas. I think that the development team is obviously going to listen when their player count is low. They're going to listen. I mean, that's how you get them. That's how you get them to listen is to not play the game. You want them to listen. You don't play the game, and then when they start listening, you tell them everything that you want. Um, you tell them all the feedback. You've all the stuff that's been thought out. So anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that that if you're playing Diablo still, I hope that you're enjoying it. If you haven't played Last Epoch, I would definitely say try it out. The controls are slightly different than Diablo, but it's definitely a good game. Well worth it. The the game's content and the builds, the classes, the talent trees, way more thought out than Diablo 4. Just way more thought out. You can tell these people actually care about making a video game that is fun and less about the money. So yeah. Anyway, thanks again. Yeah. Talk to you later.